Okay. Good morning, David.
I was unmute. I was muted already. So then I have to navigate my way back to mute button. The rabbi's saying, why is David not muting me? We can make a little comedy material.
Chaim, David,
Chaim.
you win. Okay. Before we begin this Maamar, I want to share with you something. I was really happy this past Shabbos, and I told the guys in the show that there was a new Maamar that was discovered in the archives of Rabbi Shalom Jacobson. There was such excitement. It was like Simchas Torah, just to see the how deeply Hasidim cherish something from the Rebbe was very very inspiring. The Maamar we're going to learn is very powerful and deep, and I think not so hard to understand either. And it was just discovered a few weeks ago, and it's about the theme of this month, the month of Elul. And it really highlights an element about this month that, in a way that's not discussed, I think, in so many other Hasidic discourses, something unusual perhaps. There's a famous story of Berke Chaim. Berke Chaim was a Malamed, he was a school teacher. And someone once came to Berke and told Berke, the reason why I decided to become a school teacher was because of you. One day in the class, a kid came to school with a new watch, and everyone was so impressed by it. And I decided that I wanted it. And I took the watch, I sneaked and I stole the watch and put it in my pocket. So you said, the teacher, you told us all that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, has gotten the better of someone. It's not a Jewish child that has done this deed. It's just the Yetzer Hara, and everyone should stand up and they should close their eyes. And the school teacher will, the Malamed Rabbi Berke, he will take the watch back. So everyone stands up, they close their eyes, and Rebecca found the watch in my pocket and he took it back. And he told Rebecca years later, I was so impressed that you never looked down on me because of this. Although I did such a terrible thing, I stole, you never looked down at me at all. So Rebecca said, the reason I never spoke to you about it is because just like I asked everyone in the class to close their eyes, I closed my eyes as well. I also closed my eyes. I also didn't look at who was the kid who stole the watch. I wanted to be able to relate to you as God's child, as not to think of you as whatever. So that is what inspired this boy to become a school teacher. So there's a tradition that the Tzemach Tzedek not only compiled all the discourses of the Alter Rebbe, but he also wrote the heading of each parsha in Likutei Torah. All the discourses of Alter Rebbe, there's a heading of which parsha they're in. The only set of discourses that does not have a heading are the discourses of Parsha Shoftim. They're included in Parshas Re'eh. And the reason why there's no heading for that section, the Rebbe said, is because Parsha Shoftim is always in the month of Elul. And we don't want to put a heading for Shoftim in the month of Elul. Because Shoftim means judges and police officers. And when there are judges, there are police officers, there's a hierarchy. There is a distance between one person and another. Everyone's in their own space. The theme of the month of Elul is how the king is in the field. And all the differences between us melt away. That's really what was going on in the mind of this Malamed. Rabbi David Hamami shared with me, Mary de Gevart, he said, the Malamed, the teacher, why didn't he look at this child and see who stole the watch? Because the Malamed felt that he and the child are the same. He wouldn't want anyone to see that he stole the watch. And he said the child and he are the same. He doesn't want to see the child differently. He wants to see himself. So he doesn't want to see which child stole the watch. So it's very similar also in the month of Elul. Hashem is, so to speak, the Malam. He's, so to speak, the school teacher. And he doesn't want to look in us and see in us anything deficient. He wants to see in us only the good. In the month of Elul, Hashem looks at us with rachman, with mercy. So this is going to help us understand this discourse where the Rebbe describes how Hashem looks at us in the month of Elul. And let's get right to it. Again, this Maamar was said in Tafshin Chavches, and in Shabbos of Parshas Ve'eh, which was also Rosh Chodesh. That's why the beginning of the Maamar is about Rosh Chodesh, the Haftorah of Rosh Chodesh. I just want to point out that Hasidim talk about the heading of discourses, and they say that the heading of a discourse is merely a passport. It's not like you learn a discourse about whatever verses are in the Torah for that week, and the Rebbe gives a discourse about that Torah portion. It's more like when you learn Chassidus, you're learning something about Hashem and about the Jewish people and about you and about where you need to go. So every discourse is a way of thinking. I heard it's printed in the Rebbe's Rishimus, something about how whenever a Rebbe would say a discourse, it has to do with trying to capture one's soul. One neshama should do tshuva. So imagine this discourse was said in 1968, and it could be that the one who has to do tshuva is you or I. Either way. David, are you unmuted for a reason? His accent.
I'm sorry, what?
Any questions?
What's that?
I saw you unmuted yourself. Is that something you wanted to say?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get the picture right. Sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead. Continue, Rabbi. Sorry.
Okay. So, the heading of a discourse is merely a passport to get into the discussion. We're trying to get into a discussion and trying to get a discussion about ourselves and about Shuvah. Let's get right to it. The heavens are my chair, the earth is my footstool. What kind of house can you possibly build for me? In other words, you can't possibly build a house that's big enough, so to speak, for Hashem. But who will I look at? Hashem says, who will I pay attention to? In other words, I'll pay attention to someone who is poor and broken-spirited and cares and trembles for my words. It's known the question about this verse. How can we say about Hashem that he has a chair or that he has a footstool? Hashem has no body, nothing even similar to a body. So how can we say about Hashem that he has a chair or he has a footstool? So the answer is that the words chair and footstool and the words heaven and earth are really a reference to something spiritual. The written Torah and the oral Torah are compared to a chair and a footstool. Or another way of explaining this verse, that the heaven refers to the Torah and the mitzvahs are compared to a footstool. So we're not talking about literally the sky and the earth, we're talking about the spiritual impact of both Torah and mitzvahs. And the impact of Torah and mitzvahs is similar to a chair and to a footstool. Elsewhere, Chassidus says that the significance of a chair is that when you go into a chair, you lower your stature. You bring yourself down. In a similar way, when you learn Torah, you draw down godliness in the world. As I ever told someone, warning, what's maftir? Chaim. More Torah, more bracha. More Torah, more blessing. Why is more Torah, more blessing? Because Torah is Torah is what draws down godliness into this world. Torah is the words of Hashem. Torah is the chair that brings Hashem's presence to be revealed in this world. And the pasuk continues and says, what kind of house can you possibly build for me? Meaning, you can't build a house for me. What's the pasuk referring to spiritually? We just spoke about Torah and mitzvahs. And yet Hashem says, that's great, but that won't build me a house. What does that mean? These two objects, the heaven and the earth, the chair and the footstool. Those are references to how we are able to draw down God's light into a vessel. Every divine light in the world of perfection, the world of Atzilus, is filtered through a vessel. The vessel of kindness, the vessel of justice, but everything is filtered through a vessel and has a limitation. Sham Shayich Inyan Reish V'Regel. In the world of Atzilus, you could talk about a head, you could talk about a footstool. In the world of Atzilus, you could talk about a limitation of a head and a foot. Meaning, there is a direct way of causing God's light to be filtered in a certain specific way through Torah mitzvahs. Every mitzvah draws down God's light in a specific way. It says in Hayom Yom that every mitzvah has a spiritual remedy. When you need that specific remedy, you're helped for doing that specific thing that you were involved in. So you were involved, let's say, in tzedakah and kindness. That draws God's kindness to you. And similarly, with each mitzvah has its own remedy, has its own vessel, has its own impact. Also on a personal level, every mitzvah has its kavanah, has its intent that you're supposed to have to do that specific mitzvah. That's pnimi. Just like on a personal level, it's pnimi. It has to do with how you personally look at it and feel about it. And so too spiritually, each mitzvah draws down Hashem's light in a specific way. But so at the level of the lights which have vessels, we could talk about a head and we could talk about a foot. We could say that just like physically, when you're healed in your foot, this causes you to be able to think better. Your foot gets healed, that makes your mind be able to process things in a more comfortable way, because when you feel better in your foot, so you're able to think. So the Jewish people are called the foot, and our efforts, when we raise ourselves up like the footstool, we do something special here, that adds to the lights of Atzilus, that adds something to the head. So if we're talking about the lights of Hashem, which have vessels, we could talk about the impact of something specific that we do to a specific place in heaven. That's if we're talking about the lights which have vessels. But the transcendent lights have no division of beginning or end. We're talking about something which is infinite and transcendent, and it encompasses the head and the foot equally. As the Ramak and the Arizal disagree about the way to define the infinite light of Hashem. The Ramak says, the Meshkat Avari says, that if you wanted to measure the difference between this world and the world of Atzilus, and Atzilus and the infinite light of Hashem, you would discover that the infinite light of Hashem has less, that this world has less in common has more in common with the world of Atzilus than the world of Atzilus has with the infinite light of Hashem. The infinite light of Hashem is so beyond, so infinite, so that even the highest world of Atzilus would be considered to be limited and insignificant compared to the infinite light of Hashem, so much so that we have more in common with that world than the infinite light of Hashem has with Atzilus. We have more in common with Atzilus than Atzilus has with their Ein Sof. But that's their Moshe Kordavari says. But the Arizal disagrees, because Arizal says, based upon that, what you're saying is that the world of Atzilus has, that this world has even less in common with the infinite light of Hashem than the world of Atzilus does. That means that you're able to measure the distinction between this world and the world of Atzilus, and this world and the infinite light of Hashem. That means there's a greater gap between this world and the infinite light of Hashem than the world of Atzilus. And that means that Atzilus is, so to speak, closer to the infinite light of Hashem at some level. So therefore, the Arizal says the real way to look at this is that compared to the infinite light of Hashem, Atzilus and this world are the same. Compared to the infinite light of Hashem, Reish V'Regel, the head and the foot are the same. When we talk about Hashem transcending all worlds, the light of Hashem, which is Seviv Kolam, the light of Hashem, which transcends all worlds, that light is equal in the world of Atzilus and in this world. It's the same in both worlds. It's not more in Atzilus, more here. It's equal in everywhere. That's the meaning of Makif. And it's also beyond something that we could reach and we could tap into. Since it's infinite, so how can we possibly make an impact there? And therefore, the Navi says, what kind of house can you make for me? How can you possibly draw down this infinite light? Because it's beyond anything that we could do. It's beyond any definition. And therefore, the pasuk continues and says, to who will I look at? Hashem says, who will I pay attention to? I'll pay attention to someone who is poor and broken spirited and trembles for my words. Hashem says specifically, I will look at this person. What's the meaning of the word look? Just like when you look at someone, you're able to see the entire person at once. So too, when we talk about Hashem looking at someone, we're talking really about Hashem connecting and revealing himself to someone from a place which is equal, where everything is equal. Just the idea of looking at someone means we're talking about an infinite light of the Eibishter, an infinite light which is not found in more in one place than another. Just like when you look at someone, you take in the whole person at once. So Hashem, so to speak, draws down his infinite light to who? To someone who is who does Hashem draw this light down to? To someone who is poor and broken spirited. It's similar to what the pasuk says. Hashem says that he is high and he is holy. But who does he rest with? He rests specifically with someone who is broken and low-spirited. And specifically someone who has this bittul, has this sense of nullification before Hashem, that it connects him to a infinite light of Hashem that cannot be drawn down through ordinary efforts. Since it's beyond what can be reached with the efforts done in this world, therefore the only way to draw this down is through bittul. And that's the meaning of the pasuk. Who trembles for my words? It says specifically tremble. You're a bittul. So it's specifically the trembling for Hashem's words, this bittul, this devotion we have to Hashem, this being nullified before Hashem, that connects us to the infinite light of Hashem. So through our Torah, through our mitzvahs, we draw down indeed the lights of Hashem and we impact this world. But to draw down the infinite light of the Eibishter, that is associated with our service of Hashem in a way of bittul. Now, it does say in Tanya that every mitzvah brings down the infinite light of Hashem too. So what is the Rebbe referring to when he says to draw down the infinite light of Hashem, you have to have bittul? It seems that without any bittul, just doing a mitzvah, you bring the infinite light of Hashem to the world as well. I think that what the Rebbe is referring to is not just that drawing down the infinite light of Hashem, but drawing it down in a way that should be revealed in this world. Making a house where Hashem's light is revealed, that is accomplished specifically through bittul. Bittul is a theme in this discourse, as we shall see. And this is the main way to begin our journey home to Hashem. It's through bittul, it's through trembling for Hashem's words, through taking Hashem seriously, accepting of Him upon ourselves as our King. And that's the way to find your way home, as we shall see. So in short,
it's not the difference between tikkun and arach and atik.
I don't understand the question.
Like Torah and mitzvahs, don't they connect to the outer level of ratzon, since it's Hashem's will, versus bittul connects to the inner?
There's a pasuk, l'she'eres nachalase. She'eres nachalase means to the remnant of his inheritance. And the Talmud comments in this verse and says that says Hashem forgives the remnant, the remainder of his inheritance. Who does Hashem forgive? Hashem forgives those who consider themselves as if being shirayim, as if being leftovers. The leftover Jews, the ones who say about themselves they're leftovers, God says, I forgive them. So this says, what's the meaning of the leftovers? The leftovers means those Jews who what's the meaning of the leftovers spiritually, getting in touch with Hashem's leftovers? There is the amount of energy, so to speak, that Hashem has to use to create the world, and everything else is left over. So how do you get in touch with the leftovers? Much better than the prime principle, because the principle is just what creates this world, and this world is through many tzimtzum, many contractions. How do we get in touch with the leftovers, with the infinite light of the Eibishter? It's by considering ourselves like leftovers, by putting ourselves down. That doesn't mean that we lose our self-confidence and self-esteem, but that we have this bittul to Hashem. So when we have this bittul to Hashem, we connect to the infinite light of Hashem. So if you're quoting a specific discourse which compares Torah, mitzvahs, and bittul and says which light they are, each of them connects to a different light, I like to see it. But what I think is that the Rebbe is referring to the revelation of this infinite light, not just the infinite light being drawn to the world, not just the makkah being drawn down, but Torah mitzvahs draws down, and not just that. It says Torah mitzvahs draws down atzmos, but to be a vessel for atzmos to be able to be here in a way that's to be a keli, to a vessel for it, so that it could assimilate with this world and impact it. That's with the bittul. That's putting it all together. As we shall see in the discourse, why bittul is so relevant. On Rosh Chodesh, God told Moshe Rabbeinu, I want you to come up to me on this mountain to receive the second tablets. God agreed to forgive us on the first day of Elul for the sin of the golden calf. And he told Moshe Rabbeinu to come up to him and get the second tablets. He stays there for 40 days and 40 nights. And then he comes down after 40 days and 40 nights on Yom Kippur with the second tablets. It's interesting, number 40 is always used when we talk about creating something new. 40 is always something which has to do with creation. It says that a baby is formed in 40 days. Until 40 days, prayers can help to decide the offspring of a baby. There are so many different places where the Torah uses that number 40. So we want to get somewhere. We want to begin the new year and have a new person beginning the new year. So Hashem tells us, I'm giving you 40 days. 40 days is the thing. Actually, the words Anila Deidi V'Deidi Li, the first letters of those words are the acronym of the month of Elul. I know they at least stands for Elul, but the last letters of those words are 4 yuds, because there are 40 days from the first day of Elul until Yom Kippur. So we just finished yud number 1. Yud number 1 was yesterday, the 10th of Elul, and the Rebbe spoke had the significance of finishing the first yud, finishing the ani, and going into the next level. So we're now deep in Elul. We're now in stage 2 of our transformation process, and I guess if we haven't started, it's a great time to start. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu was summoned to Mount Sinai to get the second tablets. It's interesting, those who put this Maamar together, it wasn't edited by the Rebbe, they were really scrambling to try and find out where the Rebbe gets this idea from that I'm going to share with you, because they quoted from Rav Tzadok HaKohen from Lublin, not from any other sources. I don't know if they ever quoted from other occasions or not, but it's certainly not something they found in any other Hasidic sources from the Rebbeim before our Rebbe. And the idea goes like this, that just like Moshe Rabbeinu was there for 40 days, and after 40 days, he received the tablets, God engraved those tablets, so too, during these 40 days, this instruction to Moshe Rabbeinu is also a personal instruction to every Jew. It's instruction to every person, that everyone has to engrave within himself these 10 commandments. Our effort in this time of the year has to be to engrave within ourselves the message of Hashem. And this is the whole role of what a person is doing in this world. After a person, after a person making an effort himself to come close to Hashem, then Hashem says, I could write then write on those tablets. You have to create those tablets. Just like God told Moshe Rabbeinu to fashion the tablets, and then Hashem could write in the tablets. So Hashem says, Zev Kesser, Dave Lebel, Dr. Bresson, Moshe 11, it's time for you guys to make your tablets. That's time to create the tablets. Once you create the tablets during these 40 days, and God says, okay, and then I'll be able to inscribe them on Yom Kippur. But Rosh Chodesh Elul is Chilukos Veit Chodesh Elul. From Rosh Chodesh Elul, we begin this whole approach to Hashem. And that is similar to what we just learned in the previous discourse in this week's Torah portion. It says that she will cry for her father and mother for 30 days. It says about the captive woman, one who was captured in battle, she cries for her father and mother for 30 days, which also is a reference to the Jewish people doing tshuva for the whole month of Elul. Not necessarily tears of sadness, but also be tears of joy, but there's definitely this sense of closeness to Hashem in this month. And this effort that we make during this month, just like it says about the captive woman, that first she's in captivity and she cries, and then she's able to be married and to be intimate with her husband. So too, the Jewish people are able to be, through the month of Elul, we're able to experience intimacy with Hashem. When do we experience intimacy with Hashem? So that's what happens when we get married on Yom Kippur by Ne'ilah. Yom Kippur is when Hashem gives us this sense of intimacy. That's what the word Ne'ilah means. Ne'ilah means closed. The simple meaning of Ne'ilah means it's the closing of the gates. But the Hasidic meaning is that the gates are already closed, but we're inside. It's a time of total intimacy between a Jew and Hashem. So how do you get Hashem to give you that level of closeness on Yom Kippur? That's through the efforts you make in the month of Elul. Although it's something that God does, just like in order for a woman to get married, she has to first agree to get married. So too, we have to first agree that we want Hashem to be our king in the month of Elul and make an effort to go towards Hashem and to create, so to speak, our own tablets and to grave Hashem's words upon us during this month. And when we do have this sense of bittul and the sense of devotion to Hashem, so that Hashem's words we care about them, they're engraved upon us, then Hashem can give us this intimacy on Yom Kippur. I'm just thinking about Rabbi Elkan Alav Shalom. Rabbi Elkan would always point out the flaws of various people to give us an insight of where we need to be. He would challenge us. He couldn't stand the fact when someone would repeat a discourse by heart, they would from memory. He couldn't stand the fact that they would turn the pages while their eyes were closed. You think they're doing great, like they memorized the whole discourse, they memorized where the pages turn. It's like, it's just about the papers, it's not about you. You didn't get the discourse, it's about getting the papers. The effort during this month is to engrave the words of Hashem upon us, to create our tablets, and then Hashem can give us the v'chasafti aluf, like Hashem can then write on our tablets. So, just like Hashem gave us the first tablets, it says in the Torah that we had to first say Nasiv and Nishma, we had to first agree to get married with Hashem, so to speak, and then Hashem could give us the first tablets. So too by the second tablets, which are given on Yom Kippur, there first has to be an effort of tshuva first, from the first day of El to Yom Kippur, and then Hashem can give us this gift of intimacy with Him on Yom Kippur. So, in short, we learned today is that the Eibishter wants us in this month to create our own tablets, to create a space for Him, and when we agree to get married to Him in this month, then Hashem is able to betroth us and marry us on Yom Kippur. We continue. Any questions?